And in our society, sports are so important, as you know, sports are so important that folks who have kids who are involved in sports kind of live through their kids sometimes. So I vicariously enjoy the sport because I can see my son playing. And then when my son wins, I feel good about myself because that's my son. And so that kind of reflects on me in a positive manner. And so that gives me an incentive to have a desire that my son does really well. So I'm living vicariously through my son, which is great that I feel good about it. But one of the things that can happen, and frequently does happen, is you get parents who are so involved in what their kids are doing that they pressure them to do better because they want to believe that they could have done well because they're living vicariously. One of the bad things about it, the athlete, speaking of the kid, is close. You did everything you had to do. You got him the cleats, you got him the outfit, you got him signed up for the team, you got him to meet the coach. Everything's all set up. It's a beautiful day, it's not raining. Drove all the way out. It's so close to having a good time playing this soccer game with these little kids. And then the opportunity is lost because then you yelled at your kid, the coach yelled at the kid didn't play well and feels bad about themselves. And this is talking about all the horrible stuff about sport, but for contrast's sake and talking about what the kids' involvement in sport is like, it's good to look at the good and the bad. And in order to affect change, you almost have to look at the bad stuff that's going on. So it's a lost opportunity when it doesn't go well. So much benefit can come out of sports for kids. It's a shame that we don't tweak the little things to make it just right for them. My son, I have two sons, and the one guy is this athlete. He gets involved in all these athletes. The other guy's like more of a nerd, like I was too. At least part of my life was nerdy. Where he's just very studious, and he's just like, sports are just not his thing. So he's always referring to it as sports ball. It's like that, what's going on in sports ball? Because he doesn't even pay attention, like the Sixers, I was asking you about the Sixers, he doesn't even pay attention to it. It's just not his thing. It's fine. It's just not how he's living his life. And he does a lot of great things. He's a good athlete, he just doesn't participate in sports much. Or you can have this lifelong love of sport. And I think it's good to, for me, it makes sense to contrast those two things. Who cares if you play sports or not? I think it's good for you. I like it, I promote it, and I would like to emphasize that I believe that it can be good. And just my son too. He's a fit dude. He does work out, and he does go outdoors, and he walks and exercises and whatnot. He's just not into sports per se. But I think either way is a perfectly fine way to go. It's just a big part of our culture, and it's a big opportunity for a lot of people. Early memories of youth sport. What do you think, Veronica? When you were growing up in Sweden, how did you get started with tennis?
My sister started, and then I just started.
How old were you?
I was like 7 or 8.
Mm-hmm. Did you experience any of the bad stuff? Was there, here's sharing, if you would, did either of your parents play tennis?
I mean, my mom played a little bit when she was younger, but like not so much.
Are they in the stands saying you got to do better, Veronica, or were they answering texts, or are they heading at dinner? How did tennis go today, Veronica?
I mean, my mom was pretty involved, like in my tennis game and everything, like throughout my whole life. So yeah, I mean, she was a little bit more strict than my dad.
Strict.
Yeah, I mean, not really, but like a little bit.
So she had expectations.
Yeah.
She wanted you to do well. Did you feel a sense of support, or did you feel a sense of pressure from your mom? Or is it some mixture? And tell me which did you feel played a greater role, and what was your emotional reaction to it? That's a lot. Did you get all that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it was like a mix of both. Because I knew she always wanted me to do my best, and that's why she was like pretty, like she had expectations. But I mean, yeah, I think it was like a mix of both.
Did I talk about the term warm demander in here before? Did I say that? Warm demander? There's a term, and it's in education in general now, called warm demander. If any of you guys get into education, who's thinking about going into teaching? Professor, teacher in high school? No one? So if you end up changing your mind at some point, when I was your age, I was not going to do that either, and I ended up being an educator, obviously. There's a term in education right now called warm demander, and it sounds like what your mom was, Veronica, which is they're warm, so I have your best interest at heart, but I also have a sense of demand. And I think that's all, not just an educator, but a parent, which is, education is a subset of parenting. It's good, I think, for a parent to be a warm demander, to have expectations of your kids without putting too much of it. You could be you could be a cold demander and yell and scream at kids, make them feel bad, and it doesn't go as well. It doesn't line up with motivations that children and people in general experience. Why children participate: fun, friends, learning skills, excitement, fitness, lots of good stuff. Play, curiosity, and connection drive engagement. Winning is not the original driver. What are you actually chasing when you started? And I'll ask you, Michaela, but just to go through some of this stuff. Play, curiosity, and connection drive engagement. So I have a question about that for vocabulary. Winning is not the original driver. When you're a little guy, and I showed a picture of these guys running out to play together, they're not necessarily thinking about winning. When you're 7 or younger, you're just out there having a good time with your kids, with your friends. But when you're out there playing, soon that comes into, it's a developmental stage. You start getting competitive. You start wanting to, who's the fastest person? You can hear that happening. And then it's formalized to some extent when you get into a sporting context. So then winning becomes more important, and it becomes more important as you go over to more elite levels. Now that you're in college, those of you who are college athletes, winning's a big deal. You get people really emotional about it. Coaches are yelling and screaming at you, and people are taunting from the stands about it. It gets really aggressive. So what do you think? What's connection drive engagement mean to you, Kel?
I think connection is part of the social part of sport, and drive is why you're doing the sport, and then engagement is how you work with your peers.
Well done. Nothing to add. What are you actually chasing when you started? When you first started playing sports, why were you there? Did you like it? And if you did, why? What was good about it?
I think I just played for enjoyment and just to be around my friends. I don't really have many memories, but so I don't even know if I even knew where I was playing, to be honest.
Your parents just we're going.
Kind of. Yeah.
How old were you when you started getting into formal sports? And what was your first formal sport that you can remember playing?
I started when I was 4 playing t-ball with my brother.
So you're out there, you're like, what's this?
Yeah.
Why are you putting the ball here, and you're standing like this, the field's out there. It's no, turn to kill. And then you turn, and then you're hitting the ball. And were you okay? Did you have a good experience your first time out? Do you remember?
Yeah. It was fun. Yeah. I just argued with my brother a lot, but yeah.
Doing kid stuff.
Yeah.
See, yeah, so it's almost ancillary. It's almost something extra that's happening. Hey, T, it's almost something extra that's happening with your day. Mom and Dad took me to play t-ball. What's this? But it's it's kind of fun. We're doing it. And I would argue that's a really great time in your sports career, when you're just showing up. It's just, there's no pressure. You're just doing what you do. And it's kind of a family thing sometimes. Why children drop out? Again, with the negative. So they're all kind of positive things. Not fun, pressure, poor coaching, time conflicts, get your shoes on, do this, do that. And so just one more thing to do during the day. Why am I talking about problems with this? To provide contrast so that we can change, so that we can learn. In our roles, good morning. Let's go, Jake. As we go through this thing, we're going to be, some of you will be parents yourselves, some of you will be coaches, some of you will advise coaches, some of you will advise athletes. Teaching how to make this more enjoyable helps the sport. will drop out. No improvement, role frustration, mismatch between the athlete and the environment. This might not be what I want to do today. I don't want to be involved in this. Was quitting about ability or something else? T, what was your, I'll ask you too, what was your earliest, I'll try to remember to ask each of you about this. What was your earliest memory? And I'll say of formal, anything, all the kids are like in the neighborhood and play together, or in your household with brothers and sisters, whatever. You have initial ideas of what athletic participation, involvement is early on, and then it becomes somewhat formalized. You're actually playing it in a sport. What do you remember? What's the earliest memory you have of formal sport?
I've been in sports since I was like 4, so I kind of remember just always being in something, always being something structured.
What was the first structured sport actually that you can remember being in?
Gymnastics.
Oh, really? Oh, that's it. That feels like a jump. Gymnastics to hoops. Yeah. I said a jump. See what I did there?
Yeah.
Totally random. Gymnastics is a jump, though. Was that weird for you? What appealed to you about basketball that drew you away from gymnastics to make it your primary?
Nothing really. Well, no. It's not that I was doing like gymnastics and I was also interested in basketball. It's more like I was really just focused on gymnastics, but then I quit gymnastics because of my coaching. It's like why children drop out. Sometimes coaches do have to deal with that.
Bing, bing, bing. How lucky is that? I'm on the quitting slide, and now we have the topic of quitting coming up. Just coincidentally.
Yeah.
So while we're there, what was the coach?
Yeah, well, it's just, I feel like all the coaches, they just weren't, well, there was a trend, basically, at the gym I was at. If I could go back, I would never quit. I would have just went to a different gym, but I was only 14, so it was just too much, and I felt like I didn't want to do it anymore, but I think I just didn't want to do it there, so I went somewhere else.
So you actually enjoyed the sport in and of itself, and your involvement in it. But it was the coach. Was she?
Just the culture, like that they have at that gym. They don't really support everyone. They supported a select few people.
So favorites and cliques maybe. Wow, favoritism. I don't know that I have that word listed on this slide at all, so thank you. And I'm sorry about that. Thank you for providing the example, and it's such a timely manner, but I'm sorry that happened. And it's interesting, I heard too, regret. Look back to they're 14, and there are regrets even from 14 years old, as if you had control over all of that too, right?
I mean, it really was.
But you could go to your coach and say, hey, could you shape up? You're giving me a hard time. You don't have, because it's the power differential. You can't do that.
Yeah. So sad.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of comedy, but there's some sadness. Yeah, it's some sadness. And we all, I think, and maybe that'll come out also today with some other, thank you for that, sharing on that. Environment and expectations, rigid, controlling, misaligned environments. This sounds so horrible, but there's some truth in these things. For little guys, early specialization, high expectations, low autonomy, the ride home. Parents as coaches, performance pressure, when does structure cross into control? I'm smiling because it's funny. Last semester, one of the students had a really good story about the ride home syndrome, which I, as a parent, and when I was a little guy, experienced too. That's a big deal. When does structure cross into control? What does that mean to you when I say the ride home, Max? Does that hit you in any way? Does that click? Do you know what I'm talking about even?
Yeah.
What do you say that?
I mean, it's just like the drive home after a game or after a practice where the parent is more involved. They might have something to say about it or make you feel never good or whatever after it. But it never really happened to me. My parents never really said anything. They would just, if I played bad, it would just be quiet.
That was, but that is a reaction. It's just kind of the non-reaction reaction.
I played good, I'd be quiet too.
Oh, they just didn't come. It was part of your day.
Yeah.
You played it, and now it's time to move on. We're driving home.
Yeah.
It's not a big thing. So it sounds to me like they didn't take it so personally. It was your performance was different than their life. It was not a reflection on them per se. It sounds terribly healthy to me.
They took what my first coach said to heart, where they never like yelled in the first place, but he just had a conversation with all the parents when I was like 5. I started playing when I was 3, but like my first real coach was when I was 5. And then he was just like, don't be involved, just kind of watch, just let them enjoy it.
Your coach advised your parents on how to treat this. That's awesome. That's a really in tune coach, and progressive. And you were 3 when you started? What sport were you in when you were 3?
Soccer.
Wow, that's really early. That's huge. And what kind of, do you remember at all? What kind of drills were going on?
It was just, I mean, most of our practices weren't really like playing or anything. It was just like cone drills. Like you just as many touches on the ball as possible. And then you might do like a passing drill, maybe play at the end, but you would do just like cone drills and then you would just run. Like they would just have us do runs like the last 30 minutes of training.
Get the little bodies moving around. I used to coach too, but I grew up in a community where soccer was really big. Not 3, but we started at 5 or 6, something like that, which was really young for those days. And we had my high school coach ran the whole program for even the little guys. He oversaw everything in the whole school district. It was great. And so he had, that's probably why I'm standing here today, because he was so healthy with us and he encouraged so many people to play sports. It was a great experience. It sounds like what you did. The fact that your coach advised the parents to, give space and keep it pleasant for the children. Let them have their autonomy. The biggest thing with kids soccer is not having everyone over the ball at the same time. Kids soccer game, a 3-year-old soccer game would just be everyone just moving toward the ball and kicking the ball around. There's no concept of space. And so that's a big thing that has to be taught for that age. But I love it that they just did drills and run around. Moving the body is a big deal with all sports. It's a big reason why we do these things. Psychological needs. Autonomy, competence, and relatedness. Drive, motivation, engagement. Break 1, motivation drops. So they're all important. Not like everything's gone if one of those things is a little bit off, but it is probably the case that motivation goes down with any decrease in autonomy, and with any decrease in competence, with any decrease in relatedness and social feelings about it. Which need matters most? So Aiden, if you were to look at those things, the autonomy, competence, and relatedness, which of those stands out? I'm asking you a question with no answer, but in your opinion, this goes right to the evaluation. Which of those is the most important? And let's say to you, put yourself in your shoes when you were a little guy. Which was most important to you, do you think? Warning.
Can you remind me what autonomy is?
So it's a guess from the class. Who knows, again with vocabulary, what's autonomy mean to you? Anyone? Best guess. Give it a shot.
Having control over your environment.
Yeah, let me broaden it. I think it means having control in general. I think to a great extent your environment, but also your reaction to it. So control over myself too, autonomy, but yeah, I think the majority of that is your environment. I'm thinking about environment in terms of I am not my thoughts and I am not my feelings, so they're part of my environment too. But that really is an alternative, an internal part of it. But yeah, control. So I have control over what's going on. Like T, didn't really have control. I mean, to a certain extent she did, but she's not gonna be able to, talk to her coach when she's a 14-year-old little guy trying to tell them how to do their job. That's asking a lot from a 14-year-old. So autonomy also depends on your, locus of control and degree of control you have. So which one of those is the most important to you?
I'd say autonomy is to me because I think control is a big part of the outcome of whether you're gonna stay in your sport or just be tired of it. I feel like just being in control of your feelings is a big part of it.
Yeah, so thanks. And then I think that's not, we tend to, a lot of people tend to, and I think that's one of the problems, not respect children as much as they deserve to be respected. They're really people too. And so they have thoughts at a very young age. They don't know the word autonomy, certainly, and they probably haven't thought of the concept autonomy a whole lot, but they feel autonomy. I'm being told what to do, whereas I can't just play for the sense of playing. And there has to be some control, where kids are just gonna be running around, we're not gonna be learning about anything. There has to be some control, but there's a sweet spot in there between controlling and being too rigid, and kids will lose the sense of autonomy. It would be nice if it's almost like you're fooling them into thinking that they do, and giving them a range to behave. Kids want to feel like they're controlled to a certain extent. They want to feel like there's some boundaries. Otherwise, it doesn't feel safe. So there's some safety that you can impart to a situation. If it's totally just chaos, that feels dangerous for a little kid too. But you don't want to take away their ability to make choices minute to minute about what they're doing, how they're talking with their friends. Give them some leeway. And I think that's a general thing with people, adults too. But treat, in that sense, treat kids like you treat adults. Treat kids like you treat your friends. Stress and anxiety in youth, fear of failure, expectations, outcome, focus. Talked about these concepts a lot this year. Less coping ability than adults. Yeah, you just have less skills when you're a little guy. Joy replaced by anger, fear, and sadness. You see that. You're coaching 5-year-olds and someone starts crying. And there's the movie, there's no crying in baseball, League of Their Own. There's no crying in baseball. But it's emotional. It's important. It's a big part of your life especially when you're a little guy, because your focus is more narrow. It's all about what's happening right now, and you get caught up in it. What makes youth sport more stressful than adult sport? Nasir, how about you? What was your earliest memory of formal sporting activity? Start with that.
Started football when I was like 6, little league, and
Helmets and pads, the whole bit. You're bouncing down the suit, stiff arming kids, knocking them over the palm, stuff like that.
I didn't get the ball much, I go play the defense.
Uh-huh. You were the one getting knocked down by the stiff arm. What makes youth sport more stressful? And is that true? That question assumes that that's true. So let's do that first. Is that true? Do you think youth sport is more stressful than adult sport?
In my experience, no. But I'll say there's definitely other people that can say the opposite. Like they got to high school or college and
Yeah, when I read that, as I'm asking you the question, I'm thinking, I don't know if that assumption's valid. And there's different kinds of stresses.
yeah.
Well, let's go there. What are the different kinds of stresses between, what does a little guy experience versus the last time you played football? Compare the first time you played football to the last time you played. What are the different kinds of stresses does a little guy who's just putting on the pads for the first time experience versus the kind of stresses that you felt when the last time?
I'd say like it'd be like the off the field stuff. Like now you have to worry about watching film, knowing the other defense, knowing their plays, knowing things like that. As a kid, you didn't really have to. You just went out there, ran whatever the coach said you ran. You didn't have to know what other defense that team ran, things like that. And yeah, it's definitely more stressful now than it was as a kid.
Okay, so speak to what were the stresses, and if you thought, you know, maybe your experience was a lot more like Max's than it was like Team's, where you had a lot of autonomy when you were a little guy from your parents and your coaches, people running the show. But was that or was not, where were you on that spectrum?
I'll say like, I was aware more of my surroundings, but like, I didn't really have to be aware of that coaching until I was at high school, so it wasn't really a problem. Me and my friends literally, like, we didn't have to worry about really messing up because we were there to just play. It wasn't until like high school where things got serious and then you had to start acting.
So you, in your mind, you're looking at that as a like relatively stress-free. You actually enjoyed it. Was it exciting the first time you put a helmet on? Yeah, it's kind of cool. Just the equipment.
Yeah.
You smell the grass, get the ball in your hands, or knock the ball out of someone else's hands. Yeah, it's exciting. Motivation, quality, internal, love, mastery, and belonging. I love the sport, love getting better at it, love belonging to my team. External, pressure, fear, and expectations. All those things are there. Quality is greater than quantity for resilience. So the more you play is not necessarily good if you're dreading playing all the time. So you wanna have a good quality experience. How many people have seen the Savannah Bananas? You're a baseball player, and it's kind of your turn coming up too. Did you enjoy watching Savannah Bananas play?
I mean, yeah, it's cool sometimes to watch. It's like, to me, it's like a whole different kind of sport though. It's like a show in a way, but there's still baseball going on, so it's like cool.
Yeah, it's kind of a meld of that. It's entertainment.
Yeah, it's not like we're competing, but like, it's cool.
Yeah, it's cool,
Yeah.
and it's a lot of fun to go. I'd highly recommend it. Actually, it's a lot of fun to see. And it has occurred to me, and I was a baseball player. That's what I thought I was going to be. Ultimately, I thought I was going to go and play for the Phillies one day. And I found out at one point in high school that, well, you're good, but you're not that good. And I actually punished the Phillies by not watching them for a couple of years. They didn't seem to care. They kept playing. But that was my strategy. I was going to punish them. And since then, I've let them slide. So I'm back to being a fan again. But when I went to the Savannah Bananas, it occurred to me, that's not a bad way to play sports. Yes, there's nothing on the line. I agree. It's entertainment more than it is a competition. But it was just so much fun. And it does go back to when you're first playing baseball. It doesn't matter so much if you win or lose. And what is the role of winning and losing in sport? How important is it that you win? Is it worth it to play if there's no winner?
I mean, yeah. It's just like, you love playing. It's worth it sometimes.
So when you go like a family picnic and you pick up sides and you're playing softball, does it really matter who wins?
Yeah.
A little? Then you get bragging rights, right?
Bragging.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter.
But it's not that important, and you can make it less important. So here we are, we're at the end of our semester with sports psychology, and maybe sports aren't that important. The whole goal of sports aren't that important. Could that be true? Hey, John. Good morning. How do you guys feel about that? Is it important to you? What do you think, Design? Is it important to you if there's a winner or a loser? Really?
I think the process is important.
Win day? Winning and losing, is it important? Is that an important, a critical aspect of sports?
For a team, I think so, but like for individuals, not as much.
What is the benefit to having a winner and a loser? What a word, loser. What a word. What is the benefit? What does that add to sports, the fact that there's a winner and a loser?
maybe like you'll be more confident when you win.
So maybe there's a benefit to having the pressure too. And maybe that's part of this lesson this morning about kids. Maybe that's not as big of a part of it for kids. Winning and losing maybe shouldn't be emphasized as much. Maybe that's part of it. Something to think about. Commitment versus entrapment. Want to play versus feel forced to play. Entrapment leads to burnout and withdrawal. Fear of quitting traps athletes. What have you stayed in something you didn't want? John, let's go back to you. What is your I've been asking a lot of the students about this. What is your first memory of formal participation in sports of any kind?
I remember I was probably like 7 or like 6. I was playing soccer. It's like, you know how like rec soccer is where it's just everybody's just running around in a circle. It's just a big blob of kids just running at the thing.
That's exactly. I was saying that before you got in. I was saying that's the number one coaching point for little guys playing soccer. Get some space. 15 feet. Get away from the ball for a minute.
That was the first thing I remember.
Yeah. And with that, do you remember thinking back when you were little about, I just want to quit. This is too frustrating. I don't want to be here. And that's when you were a little guy. Or since then, have you ever had thoughts about it?
I did. Just like, it was fun to me at the time, so I just kept going.
That's kind of cool. So you've had good experiences. Max was talking about the kind of influences he had when he was going through his soccer experience, but sports experience. Got a lot of good input from people who were in control of the situation, parents and coaches. Is that your experience too?
Yeah, I had a lot of positive influences on the side of my parents, and my brother played as well, so like, I kind of did it because he did.
You kinda-
stuck with it.
He might not. Did you ever feel trapped by him? Like you gotta keep going? Or it's just you looked up to him?
I just wanted to be like him.
It sounds like that was a gift for you, have someone like that in your life. Thank you. Burnout, when passion becomes pressure, exhaustion, irritability, declining performance, loss of interest in evaluation, chronic stress buildup. When is it obvious that something is wrong, and at what point to check with a teammate? So, Les, have you ever experienced personally, or someone who's been on a team of yours who's been burned out by what's going on? And I'm just sick of this team referred to early on. She ended up moving from one sport to another because of the problems that were going on. Even though it sounded like you loved what you were doing. And you actually have regrets. I wish that I had stayed in it and just gone to change the environment as if you had the opportunity to do it. Did you ever experience anything like that in your sports career, from when you were just a little guy to now?
Yeah.
Personally, or did you observe it?
Well, I've seen both sides, personally and with other people.
Then let's jump right to, what point do you talk to someone about that? If you observe that personally with someone else on your team is getting burned out, can you share with us? Did you approach them about that? Either commiserate with them, or be sympathetic, or just open a conversation about it?
I mean, it's more so me like checking in to see if they're good, but like I never like wanna intrude in that kind of way. But I mean.
So you did check in?
Yeah, I checked in.
You might be surprised at how important that was to the person you checked in with. And I would suggest that that's a super effective way to do it. You don't want to make a big deal out of it necessarily. But it gives them an opportunity then, just the act of checking in gives them an opportunity. If it really is bugging them, they can open up about it. Can you share what that was like? What was that experience like? What did you see and how did you react?
This was like a while ago. It's just like we were like as a team we were all burned out and didn't get any breaks, and like the thought process that was going through her head was like, why am I doing this? gonna put my body through this, like, and
How old were you?
we were about like 15, 16.
So similar to T, but a little bit older, and those are critical years. The difference between 14 and 16 is pretty big. And did anyone approach management about that? Approach coaching about that? No, it's still, yeah, it's
He
good.
was like a horrible coach.
Yeah. And part of being horrible is being unapproachable, in my judgment. Was that the case for her?
For everyone, yeah.
So everyone felt like she was unapproachable.
No, like the coach. So like there was like no way to like talk to people. Like,
So everyone felt about
like
it.
we were afraid of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Afraid, yeah. And that's a comment too. And that's youth. And that's the development that we're talking about. 14 or even 16, it's hard. You know, if they're a jerk enough about it, professional, coaches can be such a jerk that grown men and women have a hard time approaching someone about it. And it's super dysfunctional, but it happens in sports. Early specialization risk, a whole new concept, a whole new discussion point. High volume perfectionism, identity foreclosure. We've talked about those concepts before. Injury, isolation, psychological stress. Performance becomes identity. Is early specialization worth the cost? And I'll ask this other and I'll tell a story first. Veronica, I'm gonna ask you, but I'll tell the story first. Upper Marion is the high school I went to. I was a basketball player primarily by that time in my sports career, because as I just told you, I'd given up on baseball, and I was mad at baseball, the sport. So I was, the football team at Upper Marion was great. It was ranked in the state, and it was coached by who would become the college coach at Duke, the head coach at Duke. So it was a great football coach in terms of coaching the team, but also not the most approachable man in the world. And he instituted a policy. I still have a little anger about this. He instituted the policy that football players couldn't play any other sports. They had to get dedicated. If you wanted to be on my team, you got to dedicate to football all year. So here's a kid, a high school kid. You got to specialize in football. You can't do any of the other things because I want you to focus because I want the best team in the world. So all the guys that I grew up with, who were rebounding for me when I was shooting and missing, they were getting my rebounds. They couldn't do it anymore. So a little guy, a little 6'1" guy, had to play under the basket all the time. And that wasn't my thing. And that was because of the specialization emphasis. So I got some anger about it. It's like unresolved anger. But it didn't just hurt me. It hurt these other guys who couldn't develop their skills and they couldn't play and cross-train and give their muscles that they use for football a chance to relax for a season while they're developing their basketball skills and taxing those muscles so they can have time. Kids are developing, they're growing. They need time to develop and relax and get off the same muscle groups all the time. And he was taking that away from them too. So I'm answering some of the questions myself in this little lecture. Did you have any run-ins with this? All I know about is your tennis. Did you have other sports that you were interested in too?
Yeah, I did like swimming. I was running a lot, dancing. So I was doing like a lot of different sports. But then and I think that was good because that made me realize what I actually like doing and what I enjoy doing the most.
First of all, I love that you included dancing in that list. The recognizing it as a sport. It's an art form, but it certainly has athletic implications, and it is a performance. And if you go further in sports psychology, I have had dancers before that I've consulted with. Actually, youth dancers, Irish clog dancers. I consulted with a couple. I became somewhat of a specialist in that genre. It's weird. But you feel that those other sports, and did I hear you say that you feel that those other sports informed your tennis and made you a better tennis player? Did I hear that, or am I overstating?
Yeah, I mean, like at one point I was doing like 3 sports at the same time, and it just became a lot, and then I had to like quit some sports, and then I realized like tennis was not wasn't as fun.
And you had the autonomy that you make that choice. That's cool. Sampling and development. Most elite athletes sampled multiple sports early. That sounds like research. I forget where I got that from, but that sounds like a research point. Someone studied that, and intuitively that's appealing to me. I think that's probably true. Variety supports development and longevity. Balanced pathways reduce risk. Why do we still push early specialization? Jake, I'll ask you this, but let me start though with what was your earliest memory of formal sports participation?
T-ball when I was in kindergarten or something. So I played T-ball for a year and I played coach pitch, and then baseball was just basic for a year. So I switched to lacrosse. I played like football for like a year, but I just took lacrosse.
So you did kind of specialize. When did you stop playing other sports? Or do you still play other sports?
No, I probably played football in like 4th grade, and I started lacrosse in like 2nd, so I only played 1 year of football.
So since 4th grade, you've been just focusing on lacrosse year round. So maybe we have an example from the other side of the argument. Has that been good for you? Do you enjoy just focusing on that? Or do you miss participation? Or do you long to play something else? Or wonder if you could be good at something else?
I definitely had like that like thought in my head, like if I like continue to play a different sport, or just like just play like I never played like soccer or anything like that. Like, if I tried that, maybe I thought I'd like that better, but it's what it is now. I like lacrosse though, so.
You do. You're
Yeah.
kind of satisfied with the
Yeah.
way things are going. So has anyone been pushing you? I need you to play all year. Do you have that? Like, do coaches say, I don't want you trying other things? Because there are some concerns about like injury, for example. If you play other things, you might get injured,
Not
especially
really.
more injury-prone sports.
It's kind of a fair decision. I don't want to play lacrosse.
Eat, sleep, and drink. That's the kind of guy you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, great, thanks. So that's another end of the spectrum. That's, again, no, I will say that is an autonomy thing. Whoever's in control is giving you the option to do that. Good. Downside, but there are downsides to specialization. There is some kind of loss of control, especially if someone is Jones in primary school. I'm gonna jump on this again. You are right now being filmed. So I want you to know you are. My camera back there is on and I'm taping. But here's the deal. You can opt out. It's just not a big deal. That's the big thing. I don't really care. I'm gonna be using it maybe for social media. I might use it for interview purposes, self-assessment. Am I doing a good job? That kind of thing. Options. I'm not gonna do anything with it until July. So you guys all have the opportunity between now and then, or after then, to call me and say, just don't do it. You guys can opt out of this whole thing, or I can edit out any kind of comments that you make if you wish. I want you to have complete autonomy on this. And I talked to the department chair who said, go ahead, just make sure that they all know that they can opt out. So I'm not gonna be using it for anything bad, but I also, it's just like, let me know. Hey, Dr. Havick, could you not post it? And I won't. Or can you take anything that I say out? I'll do that. So you have a lot of options, and it's not being mandated, but it's on right now. So I just wanted to let you guys know. And so I put this slide up twice because I know sometimes some folks come in a little late, want to grab everything like this, so you know that it's happening. System-wide burnout. Parents, coaches, officials feel pressure. Role conflict and emotional labor build. Stress spreads through the system. Who else carries the stress? That's a kid, obviously portrayed as holding a lot of stress in her, playing soccer. Who else carries the stress? What do you think then, Brandon? Who else carries the stress? Where does the stress continue besides the athlete themselves?
I'd say Yeah, just parents and officials too. I mean, parents, coaches, and officials. Because the parents, if they're not doing it financially good, they gotta worry about buying like the gear and stuff, worry about how they gonna get the money. Coaches, they would worry about winning the game, if their athletes are doing good or not. And officials, they could feel pressure from like the sidelines or something. Like fans could be talking bad about them, saying like their plays are terrible.
Okay, the only thing that comes to mind that I'd add to that's a good list would be league fees. I mean, just a small detail. That's a good list. But the point being, it spreads. So this is a bad thing to have. When a little kid is carrying stress, the family feels it. All the people around them feel that. And in sports in general, you know, the refs out there, that's a tough job. I don't know if any of you have ever officiated. That's a tough job. It's thankless. Totally, everyone hates you. Both sides. Everyone hates the refs. And that burnout spreads. And it's a tough part about it. Coaching climate, mastery, effort, growth, and learning. Always put that at the foremost. Ego, winning, comparison, and pressure. So this is a good thing is the mastery part. The ego part of it is the negative part of all of this in general. There are some good things about that. Like I asked the question, is sports okay or useful or meaningful in any way if there's no winners or losers? I think probably the answer is yes, but there are positive aspects about winning. It keeps you on your toes. You know, if I go out there, that's part of this excitement. It's in the balance. It's like life itself. You're facing each minute and each second independently. Climate shapes motivation and anxiety. Which climate produces better outcomes? I'm just going to say, we know the answer to that. This mastery sensibility. We're out here to live, grow, learn, have fun. That's what we're doing. This is not about I'm better than you and you stink and you're a loser. Not the emphasis on that. Parent role. Emotional tone is instruction. Personal growth for a child. Avoid performance contingent affection. I'm not going to like you unless you win this game today. It's almost, I just can't believe people think this way, but this is how the people think. And this is that vicarious experience of my child's sport. This is a reflection on me. You better win or I'm not going to like you. Horrible, horrible. Ride home defines the experience. What does the ride home sound like? We talked about this. Building healthy support, fun, autonomy, progress, social support, multi-sport, coping skills, sport as one part of identity. I am a baseball player. This goes back to, it all comes around in the semester. It's for identity foreclosure. What am I if I'm not a lacrosse player when I graduate from Chestnut Hill? What would you change immediately? Pressure and response, same environment, different outcomes. Withdrawal goes to burnout, escalation and aggression. Have you seen both? And this is part of a kind of segue into the second half of the kind of unrelated topic today of aggression. Core concepts. Who's number 20 for the Eagles making a big hit and is extra aggressive on defense? Who is that guy? B-Dog. Out of his mind. Great safety for the Eagles. Hurt a lot of people. Super aggressive. Hall of Fame defensive back in the NFL. One of the greatest of all time. Super aggressive. And intent to harm. B-Dog was trying to hurt people. That was in his mind. It's part of sports. Assertiveness. Intent. I'm not advocating it. I'm just saying what is a fact. And I know this because I've heard interviews with him. He was out there trying to hurt people. What do you think about that? Assertiveness, intensity without harm. Frustration leads to anger, leads to possible aggression, intent to harm. Environment and modeling shape behavior. Where is the line between intensity and harm? What do you think, Kendall? I think it's true. I mean, I heard it come out of his mouth. I don't doubt him at all that he was really trying to hurt that guy. It looks like he's trying to hurt him. What's the line between intensity and harm? And you're playing a very, yours is more of a contact than a collision sport, although women's lacrosse Men's lacrosse is a collision sport. Women's lacrosse is a little more fine-tuned, but it's contact. But you shook your head. There's definitely collisions, but not as intentional as men's lacrosse. You know, or am I wrong?
A little bit wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think.
So you actually physically, you go after to dislodge the ball, you aggressively hit someone.
Not like them, but like
Yeah.
in a different way, yeah.
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 Yeah. So what's the line between intensity and harm?
Well, I think the line is a little bit different for everyone, but I feel like you have to see that within yourself. Like when you feel that shift of like, oh, like I'm working hard and I just like want to win and everything, versus like, oh, I'm getting angry, like I just want to take them out, like more personal, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like it's a little bit different though for everyone.
Yeah. So let's go back to you. Do you feel guilty? Do you agree with her?
Yeah.
It's a pretty good assessment.
I think
So
so.
maybe it's a little rougher and more intent to harm in men's?
Yeah, I think it's like what you said, it's kinda like different, but not really. Cause like in men's lacrosse, like you could like full blown just like lay someone out, and like it can be a clean hit. And like that's how you like play defense, but like in girls lacrosse it's a little bit more.
Accurate?
Yeah.
And it's a question there is no answer to. Where is the line? I mean, you're coming up with some lines here. Football's even worse though. Yes? I mean, what does your coach say about aggression and harming the opposition?
It's like a,
And let me, before you answer, thank you, but before you answer, there's two different standards there too. What does the player feel like when they go out in the field, like B-Dog? He's trying to hurt that guy. And what his coach said to him before, you know, the game. Buddy Ryan, old coach of he had the body bag game against Dallas one time. Said, I want all the Dallas Cowboys to go home in a body bag. And he said it to the press. You know, I want you to go out there and try to kill them. That's what Buddy Ryan said, the body bag game. But now I don't think, you know, any of the coaches would ever dare say anything like that. That's just how the thinking in our culture has changed in the last 30 years. Coaches can't say that. They'd be fired if they said that. But the players going on the field, and so I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it was this line like what was here? It was like football is you can like basically harm somebody as much as you want without going to jail. So I think it's just like the intensity and aspect comes from like built up anger at times.
How does your coach coach you about that? Or do they broach that topic at all?
I'll say they mostly say to like do your aggression in between the whistles, because to be honest, you can just go at somebody in between the whistles as long as you're not say throwing punches or something.
You can't do helmet to helmet though,
Yeah.
right? They'll say that.
But like you can, me and him don't have the ball and we just want to go over there and shake each other to the whistles, but we can do that.
Yeah.
So it's like, as long as you do things between the whistle, that's mostly what they say, as long as you do.
So a big part of the coaching message is stay within the rules, but if you stay, you can do whatever you want within the rules. So that's a rule dependent kind of thing. And I think, you know, this guy was he was trying to hurt that guy, but he was a consummate professional. So it was win first. So stay within the rules was how he was coached, and that's how he played the game. And he was not a bad man. He knew that this guy could take a lot. So when I say I'm going to try to hurt you, and maybe I'm putting words in B-Dog's mouth, but when I say I'm going to hurt you, I'm going to do my best to stop this play and break it up and win the game. But I don't want to kill this guy. That's not what I think. That's so there's a lot of bravado that goes on in there too. Indeed, he never killed anyone, and he was a strong enough man that he could have probably, but he put everything he could in it. So it's really hard when you talk about where's the line between intensity and harm. It's not an easy question to answer as a coach or as a player. Aggression triggers: pressure, losing, contact, and disrespect. Crowds, alcohol. ego climates, bad refs. Yeah, bad refs make a bad call, you might get angry that they made a bad call. And then the next thing you do is, I'm gonna assert myself even more next play. And maybe the aggression cranks up to the point where I'm endangering people. When have you seen this become inevitable? Personality losing control over the environment. And Rodney Dangerfield, does anyone know the comedian Rodney Dangerfield? He was the guy, he's way earlier than you, but he's really funny. He was in Caddyshack. Has anyone seen Caddyshack? I was gonna see you in Caddyshack. But he was the guy who said, I went to a fight last night and a hockey game broke out. But that's what it's like in hockey. Hockey is part of the culture of hockey. It's a very aggressive sport. Maybe even more so than football. You don't see in football games, the whole game stops and people start fighting. But that's not unlikely. If you go to a professional hockey game, it's gonna look like this at some point. It's part of the culture of hockey to fight, drop the gloves, punch someone in the face. And you even have guys, special players on the team who are the enforcer on the team. That's their role in the team. I mean, they can play hockey, but they're there to protect the other players. And if people start beating up on the high skill guy, who's the scorer or the assist guy, he'll come in and he'll defend them. He'll jump in and he'll start fighting them. So there's a cultural aspect to this too, and a cultural aspect to sports. Aggression and performance. Controlled aggression fuels intensity and momentum. Hostile aggression leads to penalties and loss of focus. That's what I was talking about with B-Dog, consummate professional, Hall of Famer. Within the rules, he's going to be as aggressive as he can be. Trade-off and performance outcomes. When does aggression help versus hurt? What do you think, Jim? Where's that line? I'm asking another question that doesn't have an answer. But do your best to try to find the threshold there. When does it help versus hurt?
I think being aggressive is good in a way. When it gets too extreme, it can lead to penalties and then free kicks, and that could hurt your team. They can get a goal and you're just averse to a mistake, pushing someone up or something like that. But aggression helps, like trying to win the ball over or like slide tackling to prevent a goal. So it's kind of like 50-50.
That's a great answer, and I thank you for that last sentence, because I was going to add, how does it, because it's good to look at that question in terms of individual performance too.
Yeah.
How does that, and I heard you say that. So you get more energy maybe to make that slide tackle or prevent a goal. And that's part of aggression that gave you that energy. Yeah. Excellent. Anger versus, and you know, my buddy Mitch Abrams, now my friend, I made friends with him after we went to that conference, Veronica. He's the guy who really filled me in after all these years of doing this and teaching it and consulting on it in sports psychology. He talked about adjusting the flame. So anger is not a bad thing, which a lot of our culture says, let's not talk about anger. It's something to deal with. It's part of your life, and it can supply benefit to your life, especially in the sports world. If you use your anger to the best, you can be a better performer. Conversely, if you try to not think about anger and you don't use it on the field, you're leaving something on the table. Because it's an asset, it's a tool that you can use, anger. I'm not saying be an idiot angry person when you're playing. What I'm saying is there's an appropriate level of anger to consider and let into your life when you're playing for that slide tackle or for that getting in front of the ball to stop a goal. When does emotion cross into behavior? That's a good question. We're going to move on because it's getting late. Optimizing anger, again with Mitch Abrams. Who's the guy standing in the, can you see it? I had to make it really small to fit in. Who's that man? Muhammad Ali. So that guy got angry. Again though, within lines, consummate professional, maybe he fought the greatest of all time, and he was able to use that anger, and he was able to adjust the flame. So I want to put him up there as maybe the best at doing that, in control of his anger, and good results. guys laying on the field, on the canvas. If you don't have enough, if you're not using enough, you might be flat or disengaged. Optimal, focused, intense, and control. Too much, loss of control, and penalties. I mean, you might bite the ear off of the guy you're boxing, which sounds like a crazy thing to do, but you know it happened, right? Who did that? Tyson bit off Evander Holyfield's ear. That's how out of control he got in one of his fights. Performance lives in the middle zone. Awareness and regulation gives you an advantage. How do you recognize Tiffany? Does anger play into your scene of sports at all? The scenarios in your life where you've been a competitor?
No, I don't really like feel angry that much about it, but emotional wise, like if I'm like busy thinking about other stuff and like I'm stressed about other stuff, like I might be a bit more emotional, but I don't really like let that like take over.
I'm just thinking there are certainly some sports that this is more applicable than others. I mean, boxing, you're really trying to hurt somebody. I mean, intent for harm, it's kind of, you want to knock them out. You want to make them unconscious. And people do die in the ring. That does happen. And so I can't really hold back. But the typical, then as I'm talking to you, I'm thinking of things like gymnastics, which, and we did hear dancing as a, what part does anger play in dancing? Is that, so maybe this is not even at all applicable in some areas. And I'm thinking about broadening this entirely and talking about musical performance, which is a performance aspect. And I think about some pieces of music do get angry. And there is a component of music performance where you do want to feel what you're doing. You know, you could have electronic dance music that has nothing to do with emotion. It's just a machine creating noise. A good danceable noise maybe, and you know, could sell a lot of records with it, but it doesn't really have much to do with the human emotion in producing that sound. Although great concert pianists and great concert violinists, you can see a very aggressive behavior that they display that make them as great as they are. So other ways to think about it, but certainly men's lacrosse, football, women's lacrosse, aggression and anger play a role, and contact and physicality play a role, and disturbing someone else plays a role. Aggression consequences, escalation, retaliation, loss of control. If you bite someone's ear off, they're gonna stop the fight. You're in a lot of trouble. There's discipline. You might not be able to fight for a while. You might get fined. Breakdown in decisions and discipline, short-term gain, long-term cost. When have you seen it too far? I'll answer that question. Don't bite anyone's ear off. Reducing aggression, emotional control, empathy, perspective taking, clear norms, leadership, accountability, reward, fair play, punish, cheap shots, rules. So defining those rules, protecting athletes. So things like, you know, I'll talk to football players in here, probably the most violent sport represented here. Even violent sports like football, now the rules are in effect. It used to be you could go helmet to helmet. Some guys coming across the middle trying to catch a football, go right into them. And now it's illegal, you can't do that. And there's fines and there's suspensions and stuff. So the rules are there to protect the safety and health of the people playing the game.